that was not video from a quad like this. That was video from a quad that's a little more like this. So this is a traditional Cinewhoop, and well, not a little bit different from traditional, but it's pretty much traditional, something you're more familiar with, something I've been working on for a while. And this is the thing from Eachine, and I bring that one out because people might mistaken what this could or could not be used for, or just generally things of this class, this status, this stature could be used for. And I wanted to make a distinction between how this flies versus how a Cinewhoop flies, and the benefits and downsides of guards and things like this, and what you can and cannot use them for. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm really trying to pull at everything to try to make this video useful, because this quad in general, there isn't a whole lot to say about it because it's just not that fantastic. So the main reason why I was interested in this to begin with is because it has a DJI Vista unit built into it, DJI Caddx Vista unit built into it. And when you have that thing built into any ready to fly, it immediately makes it kind of a step up. You now have a fantastic video, fantastic signal, fantastic control, like everything is on that side of the quad is figured out good. And when you buy this, you get the Vista unit, so you can always use that anywhere, and it is very robust in my experience so far. So it's a great unit. But what else do you get, and is it worth picking up this quad with the Vista unit built in? Well, that's a decision you're going to make for yourself, but I'm just going to share with you my experience with this particular quad. So taking a look at the rest of the quad, first and foremost, you get a frame that is less than stellar. My prop guards all broke off, but I'll get to that in a minute. You get a frame that's less than stellar, which is nothing new from Eachine. They typically go for volume. They don't go for high quality or proper cuts or good carbon or anything like that. And if you do take a look at the carbon, it has not been cut appropriately. And so what that means is that the carbon going down the arms are not straight. There's a lot of cross hatching. And if you take this frame and you just flex it in your hand gently, it's very, very, it wouldn't even break if you folded it. It wouldn't even break if you pushed it too hard. It would just fold in half. And that does not give you better durability because it absorbs impacts. It's just crappy because it just resonates like crazy and causes issues with flight performance, which you may or may not be able to solve with various firmware things, tricks that you might do. Besides the point, the frame is less than stellar, but that's normal for Eachine. The front of this is an ABS print, which is pretty nice. It does give some protection to the camera, so they did take that into consideration. And all in all, you're definitely not getting this quad for this stellar frame. It does have these prop guards, but they are essentially just brush-up guards. They're not really protecting anything. Like if you crash, you're just going to break them all, and that's what happened. I crashed, or I tried to do something crazy, and I hit the floor, and I broke 3 out of 4 of them. At least 2 of the spars broken on 3 out of 4 of them. So I just clipped the rest off because I wanted to test it without the prop guards on to see what the difference felt like. But unfortunately, in that pretty docile crash on grass, the power line ripped off the all-in-one board, so I couldn't fly this thing anymore. So yeah, that was the end of this quad. Looking at the rest of it, the motors are 1204 5000 kV, which are actually pretty suitable for a toothpick style quad, or the quads that I've been working on lately. And I think this motor is suitable for that as well. They're not good motors by any standards. They seem to have bearings. I don't even know if they actually have bearings, but they seem to have bearings in them. And overall, the motor performance is as you would expect. It's a budget motor. It's less than stellar. It does work, but it's not going to be the most ideal product to hold up to punishment or crashing or smashing. And it is obviously going to be a low-cost product. The KV and the size is totally suitable for 2.5 inches, I think, is a really good size for 2.5 inch. I think it's also good for 3 inch. And I think it's suitable for this particular quad. You're not looking at a super high performance quad here. You're looking at something that can just kind of do what it needs to do. And so the drivetrain with the all-in-one board, as long as the components don't rip off the board or the wires don't rip off the board, are going to hold up as you would expect for anything super budget. And it's hard to locate budget things that are high quality and low cost. I would not say anything in the drivetrain of this quad would fall under that category. The props, however, are excellent. They're well-known props. The Gemfan Flash 2540 props. I wouldn't really recommend any other component of the particular frame itself, but the DJI Vista unit is phenomenal as it is on its lonesome. And when I got it, my antenna was kind of just like wired up like this. So even watching the flight footage from this quad, and it's not really that great. The tune that came on it is not really reasonable. I didn't care to even try to tune it. I just ran it with the stock tune that it comes with, which is not the default tune out of Betaflight. It comes with Betaflight 4 point something, which I'm more of a fan of 3.5.7 still to this day. During the health issue right now, I still prefer 3.5.7 because it is just more reliable. There are things that are better about 4.0 and up, but I think they need a little bit more time to mature and develop. So I'm really looking forward to the next version of Betaflight that's going to have all that stuff fixed out. So this thing runs on a little 3S 450 milliamp battery, and it performs relatively okay. So now let's discuss. It's not a great quad if you didn't get it from the way I was talking about it. It's not something I would really recommend. The DJI unit is great, but it's not something that's particularly something that I would want anybody to try to enjoy, because it's really hard to enjoy this thing. But looking at this compared to something like this, which is more of a traditional Cinewhoop, this particular Cinewhoop that I got here, it has, this doesn't have the custom prop guards on it. Those are something that are still in progress, that are coming and will be available for this frame in the store. I haven't really talked about any of this in a while, but this one is just to show you, this is a fully modular frame of the Cinewhoop. You can see here everything is fully modular. You can take everything apart and it all comes apart really nice and easily. And the weight of this is not even comparable to the weight of that. The weight of this Cinewhoop with the 1000 milliamp 4S battery and a GoPro Hero 8 and the Vista unit on board is 542 grams, which is a pretty hefty weight. And the weight of the Eachine unit is, with the 3S battery, is about 160 grams. Yeah, 150 grams. And so that's the number one distinction I want to make. Even though this thing flies really junky and it doesn't really give you the performance that you may want it to, it does feel more nimble than something like this. And that's a curious thing to think about and discuss, because if you are flying this thing on the left for cinematic style footage or any kind of cinematic style flying, or if you're trying to get anything video related at all, you typically want something that's very locked in, very controllable. And so the Eachine quad on the left actually does feel very, very nice and nimble because of its very low weight. It's not well tuned. It doesn't have a real good locked in feeling control. It's just lacking in all that area, but it still feels more nimble than this really well flying quad on the right. And that has a lot to do with the props, the loadout, the way it's set up. And so when you do fly something like the thing on the right, the main difference you feel is something that is, it feels like a cinder block in the air. Not in the sense that it weighs a lot and you have to deal with the throttle and do all that stuff. It feels like the quad just doesn't want to budge. Like it feels like it's stuck in the air, like it's a solid fixture in the air. And that's sort of what you want a Cinewhoop to feel like. At least that's what I want a Cinewhoop to feel like, because I want to get super stable, super locked, super in control footage. I don't even want it to be very nimble. I actually want it to feel very, very dull and solid and slow and smooth. And that's a little bit of a struggle, because there's a lot of things that are making it really challenging to get a quad to fly and perform that way. Now, the prop guards that come with the Eachine are not exactly aerodynamically effective, I would say. I think that they're just prop guards. They're not ducks. They're not acting like ducks. And the quad on the right, the Cinewhoop, has these molded ducts, which look like they should be aerodynamically effective, and I think they probably have some degree of effectiveness, but for the most part, they're not really acting that well. They are hindering some things. They do cause this quad on the right to have washout, even though the drivetrain on it is super hefty, but the quad on the left also has washout with these little tiny tiny little prop guards on. Now that has a lot to do with the motors and the props and the way it's set up, but both of these quads basically suffer from the same issues. Now the benefits that come from ducts that I have found is that it truly slows down the quad and it makes the whole thing just feel really solid in the air if it's set up correctly, and that's a big if. If it's not really set up correctly and it's just a whatever thing that you throw up there, it doesn't really feel like it's solid fixture in the air, and you can fly something very, very smooth and stable. It's just not quite as easy to fly slowly and smoothly and stable when you have a quad that has even no guards on it or no prop ducts or anything on it, just a plain open prop quad. And it's amazing for me to even think that I'm saying this because I have hated ducts since the inception of ducts. And the past several months I've spent trying to improve the flight performance and flight feel of something that has ducts on it because of that one reason, because it just feels more stuck in the air, more solid in the air. And with the drivetrain and the duct design that's coming and the setup of this quad, you really do get some really fantastic feeling flight performance out of the machine. And so all in all, it's still the quad that makes, it's still the pilot that makes the video and makes the things work the way they do. It's not really the quad, but I don't get a lot of time to fly, and so when I do, I want something that is going to perform as best as it could possibly perform in my hands. And so I look for the best ways I can to improve flight performance and improve everything. That's what I'm going to say for now. Overall, I think that the theories behind ducts about why they do the things that they do and why they have this automatic uprighting ability are probably not applying to quads, because we don't have self-leveling machines, and if it was fighting the quad to stay upright, I feel like the flight controller would have issues with that, and it would try to compensate for it. So I actually don't think the automatic uprighting is doing much, if at all. I'm just guessing here, but it's because of the attitude lock of the quad that I say that. And so I think there's other things going on, and I think a lot of it has to do with the actual drag, the genuine drag you get from something that has so much more surface area when you're trying to fly through the air. That's it for now, and if you didn't notice, I have recently moved, and that's another thing that's been taking up a whole lot of my time, and it's lovely. It's just very time consuming. So take care, floss your teeth, take your mask off, floss and brush your teeth, put your mask back on. And I have a lot more content coming soon. Oh, another thing for my Patreons, thank you so much for being my Patreons. I don't know why I haven't realized this, but I'm going to start putting content just for my Patreons on the Patreon page. It's just that the Patreon has a really, really awful back end for the UI, for the user. Like, you can't even tell what you need to do. It took me a month to figure out how to allow you guys to put your address in the Patreon site so that I could see it and use it. So bear with me. Things are coming. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Take care. Bye.